I began a consistent, pretty much daily meditation practice probably like 7 or 8 years ago. At this time, I was in high school. I was just really going through different bouts of like anxiety and depression and just really, really struggling with my mental health. I also realize now that at the time I was experiencing autistic burnout. And because of all these things, I researched and pretty much became like so intrigued by different personal development modalities and different ways that I could help myself and different ways that I could cope, not knowing I was autistic at the time. So some of the things helped, a lot of the things didn't, but one thing that I've stuck with ever since is a mindfulness meditation practice. And before I go any further in this video, meditation is not for everyone, and it's not going to work for some neurodivergent people. It's not going to be helpful for some neurotypical people. My form of meditation is something that works specifically for me. And while I do think that there's so many other forms of meditation that could work for everyone, for me, mindfulness meditation has been so incredibly helpful. And so I just wanted to create a video today talking about how if you've been kind of feeling called, or if you just have been interested but don't really know what it is or how to do it, I wanted to make a video to kind of just explain meditation and how it helps me specifically as an autistic person with lots of anxiety going on up here. So I want to start by explaining what meditation is and what meditation isn't. So meditation, specifically like mindfulness-based meditation, which I'm going to be talking most about in this video, is just bringing attention to what's here. It's about bringing awareness to what's coming up, what's existing in the present moment, what's going on in your mind, what's going on around you. Meditation isn't like an end goal. It's not something that you like need to achieve in the end. It's not like you need to reach this certain place of like enlightenment or nirvana. All it is it's as simple as this. It's noticing what's here, noticing what's present. And so I'll explain a little bit about how my meditation practice goes. So I meditate every single morning. It's part of my very simple morning routine. I will stretch for 10 minutes prior, which kind of just helps me be able to sit still for 10 minutes. I find that if I have some sort of movement before meditating, it helps me focus just like slightly better on my meditation practice. Most days I'll close my eyes. Some days I won't. I'll take a few deep breaths and I'll just notice what's here. I'll notice the thoughts that I have. I'll notice the worries that I might have. I'll notice some things that I'm feeling really grateful for. And I'll do that for probably like 1 or 2 minutes, just kind of noticing what's there. And then I'll really begin my meditation practice. And I use something called an anchor point. Now, what the anchor point is it's going to be a tool that you can use to bring you back into the present moment during your meditation practice and even outside of your meditation practice. For me, my anchor point is my breath. I find that focusing on my breath can be really grounding for me. It can help me connect to my body. But I also have noticed that sometimes focusing on my breath is really hard, and it actually sometimes can create more anxiety because then I'm like thinking about my breathing and like if I'm doing it right, and if and then I'm like, oh, I haven't been breathing, so I need to breathe, and then I can't take a deep breath. So there's other ways that you can use an anchor point. On those days where I'm having a hard time focusing on my breath, I'll use like a candle and I'll just watch the flame flickering in the candle. You can also use like a mantra, like a repeated phrase that you can use to keep you grounded. And then to make it more like neurodivergent friendly, you can also use like a fidget tool or some sort of like sensory device that helps you feel just like grounded and regulated, something that you can use to like hold your attention. So I will start focusing on my breath, which is my anchor point. And then anytime I start to notice myself getting caught up in thought, when I start to notice the monkey mind going of just like all these thoughts that might create a feeling of anxiety or worry or fear, but they just don't really have any merit to them. They don't have any, there's like nothing to even back these thoughts up. It's just my mind doing what it does. All I'll do is I'll notice that I'm thinking and then redirect my attention back to the anchor point. And that's literally all mindfulness meditation is. It's doing your best to focus on whatever it is you're focusing on in the present moment. And then anytime you catch yourself getting away from that, it's the moment that you catch yourself doing that, that you bring yourself back to the present moment. And what you'll find if you're new to meditation, and even if you've been meditating for a while like me, is that there's times where the majority, if not all of your meditation practice for that day is thinking and getting caught up in those thoughts. And the key is to not judge. Like, our brains are just doing what they're supposed to do. Our brains are supposed to think. They're supposed to be anxious and worry about things as sort of a survival mechanism. And so we have to remember to not judge our brains for doing that. And just with a kind, gentle awareness, anytime we catch ourselves thinking during our meditation practice, we redirect our attention back to the anchor point, whether it's your breath or the candlelight or a mantra or a sensory tool. And that's all it is. There's times where I'm able to catch myself thinking a few times in my meditation practice, and then I can really focus on the anchor point. There's times where I don't catch myself thinking at all, but I am thinking, and I didn't really catch myself, so I didn't really bring myself back to the anchor point. Those are days where I feel more anxious, and that's okay too. And then there's days where I'm thinking, and then I redirect my attention, and then I start thinking again and redirect my attention, and I start thinking again and redirect my attention. And so what you'll notice is that each day, each time you practice meditating, it's going to be different, because there's going to be different things going on in your world, in the space around you, in your mind. You're going to have different worries going on, different things that you're thinking about, things that you need to tend to. And it's all about just like having the awareness of it, that you're doing these things, that you're thinking these things, without the judgment of it. And so if you want to get started on a meditation practice, you can try mindfulness meditation, and it might help you. And you might find that you do feel some benefits from it, and that's amazing. And then there's also other forms of meditation. If mindfulness meditation is something that might not be accessible to you with the way that your brain works, or if it just like feels really daunting and overwhelming to just sit still with your thoughts, I completely understand that. And there's days where I can relate to that as well. You can also do like a movement-based meditation, like walking meditations. There's so many different kinds. And so if you really feel called to get started on like an intentional meditation practice, do your own research and look at like all the different kinds of meditations that you can do, and find one that you feel like is actually going to be accessible for you and something that you're able to stick to. Because if it is like really hard, and if it feels just like torturous, you're not going to stick to it. And why would you want to do something that doesn't feel good for you? So definitely do your own research. Look at like all the different kinds of meditations, and I would highly recommend starting out with like guided meditations at first. The first few years that I was meditating, I definitely did lots of different guided meditations, and this really helped just kind of helped me figure out what I even need to be doing while I'm meditating. There's so many different free ones on YouTube, like so many. If you want to spend more money on it, there's like different apps that you can use. I've used the Calm app before, the Headspace app, and I'm sure that there's many more out there now also. And so I would definitely recommend kind of looking into different guided meditations to get started as well. So this leads me to my next thing that I wanted to share is like, how has meditating for 8 years affected me? Well, for one, it has given me this almost like, I feel like it's helped me have more strength and power over my mind. There's days where it feels like my mind is just so obsessive and like just perseverating and getting stuck on things and like ruminating on different things and just being anxious about things and overanalyzing things and being curious about everything. And this is like really exhausting to live with a mind that does this all the time. And now that I have formed a habit of meditation, I feel like it sort of like changed my approach to my thoughts. Before I started meditating, I had no awareness of my thoughts. Of course, I knew that I had all these thoughts and I knew all this stuff was going on in my brain, but I didn't know like how to deal with it or like what to think of it. And I would get caught up in these thoughts and I would judge these thoughts and I would judge myself for these thoughts. And what I realized that my thoughts exist, and then there's me, the one viewing the thoughts that are existing. And so it kind of helps me like separate myself from these thoughts a little bit to give a bit of like neutrality to these thoughts where I can just like observe them for what they are. Like, this is just my brain doing what it does. And of course it's going to be anxious. Of course it's going to have all these things going on. I'm autistic. And so it's kind of like given me the space to observe these thoughts without any judgment, to be aware of these thoughts without like getting so caught up in it. And then when I do start to get caught up in it, it helps me have more awareness that I am doing that and this behavior might not be really helpful for me. So it's helped me kind of like, again, distance myself from these thoughts and just be the observer of these thoughts rather than the being like fully involved in these thoughts. So that's one way that it's helped me, and I feel like that's probably the most beneficial thing that's come out of meditating for me. I also find that it helps me just like it helps me notice what's going on with me that day, and it helped give me just like a little bit more awareness of my emotions, of what I'm feeling in my body. I know a lot of autistic people struggle with emotions and like identifying emotions and like trying to figure out like what we're feeling. And I can absolutely relate to that also. There's times where like I'll be feeling like an emotion and I won't be able to identify it till maybe like a week later. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's what I was feeling then. But it helped me like become aware of what's going on in my body, and it's been helpful in like identifying, maybe not like naming emotions necessarily, because that's still pretty challenging, and I think that's hard for most people, honestly. But what it does is it helps me notice, oh, I'm feeling like this tightness in my chest, or I'm feeling like a sort of unease, or like a jittery sensation in my belly, and then I can kind of just like notice the actual like feeling of the emotion rather than trying to think my way through the emotion, which we all know doesn't really help. Emotions need to be felt, and so it's definitely helped with me I wouldn't say it hasn't helped like naming the emotion, but it's helped becoming aware of what's even going on within my body, which has also helped me understand what my needs might be for that day. If I do notice that there's a lot more going on in here, if I have some like unease in my body, I can almost conclude that it's going to be a more overstimulating and more challenging day. And so as a sort of preventative, I can do a few things that help me ground. I can do a few things that help me regulate before it gets to the point where I like have a shutdown, or I just get like really overwhelmed or really overstimulated, almost like when it's too late. So that's another way that it's helped me. I think that it's also helped me be able to practice seeing more beauty and experiencing more joy. And I think just that kind of relates to the other two things that I shared, with being able to become aware of my thoughts and being able to become aware of like different like bodily sensations in regards to like different emotions or different things that I'm feeling, because it has given me like the space to experience more beauty and to experience more joy in the world. And I realize that our external reality, the way that we perceive our external reality, is really has to do a lot with what's going on in our minds. And now, of course, all this stuff is happening out here, but our viewpoint, our perspective on it is going to be greatly affected by our thoughts in that moment, what we're going through in that moment, just like what we're experiencing inside ourselves in that moment. And by having the awareness and by having the ability to create space between myself and my anxious thoughts, I'm able to also view things with a more like optimistic perspective. And I think that it is just viewing things as more neutral, and then being able to like put my own take on it, which I choose to be more optimistic. I choose to see the positive in things and see the beauty in things more often. And it's like I realize that like a neutral event can happen, right? And I'd say most things that happen are just like neutral events. And then we put our own opinion, we put our own take on it. And a lot of this we do without even realizing it. And being, or I guess like meditating for however long as I have, like 8 years, it's helped me to notice that split second of how I'm choosing to respond to things, how I'm choosing to react to things, and to choose a better response and to choose a better reaction, which in turn has helped me start to see more beauty, and it has helped me experience more joy because I choose a more beneficial response, or I choose a more beneficial reaction. And this isn't something that happens like all the time. Especially if I already am feeling like really anxious that day, or if I just have a lot going on. But for the most part, it's helped me with that as well. And so I would like definitely recommend, if this is something that you have been interested in, or if you like feel called to like kind of explore a little bit, to definitely, like I said before, do your own research and find a form of meditation that you think is going to be accessible for you, that you think is going to be really helpful for you, and just try it out and see what happens. I also, before I end the video, I really want to point out that I'm sharing like the benefits that meditation has brought me for practicing it for so long. But I think we have to remember I kind of started the video out saying this, that there is no goal with meditation. There's no end goal with meditation. It's just doing the practice. That's what the goal is. The goal is to do the practice of redirecting your awareness, of observing without judgment. That's the practice. And then I think the benefits will come, but we can't expect those benefits to come. We can't go into like a meditation practice being like, okay, I absolutely need to feel better after these 10 minutes are up. I need to feel better. I need to feel better. And then at the end, you don't feel better. And then you're like, what's the point of it? I think that it's a practice that takes a lot of consistency. And honestly, with my autism, it's helped me build that consistency with it, just because I am so stuck in my routine every day. But I think those benefits build up over time, and depending on what you need in that moment, that's what you'll get from it. Maybe you don't notice a benefit from meditating for the first like year of meditating, and that's okay. Like we have to kind of release our idea that we have to get something out of it. But instead, we should understand that we're doing this because it's good for us. It's good for our brains. It gives us just like a little bit of space in our crazy, chaotic worlds to just practice more mindfulness and to just practice more awareness. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have to say for this video. If you have any like questions about my personal meditation practice or about meditation in general, this is definitely something that I've been interested in for a very long time. And I'm certainly not an expert on it, but I can try to answer those questions, or at least point you in the right direction. So hopefully you gained something from this, and hopefully there's something you can take away from this. Anyway, thank you for watching the video.